What's up, Capoeira Nation? Welcome back to the Capoeira Experience podcast. Thank you so much for being part of this. This is going to be episode number 101 with Mestre Edan. We talk about everything about the story behind how they grew the Capoeira community in Israel. Honestly, Capoeira in Israel is one of the biggest people I admire because they grew Capoeira in such an organic and very smart strategy, okay? And they grew the Capoeira community so big there in such a short amount of time because they grew very smart and they use very smart strategies, okay? And you know, I talk about the story of Mestre Edan when he started. We talk about the challenges he found when he was building the Capoeira community. He mentioned something very nice, that because we were foreigners, or because he was foreign in his case, he had to prove himself, because when he started teaching Capoeira, when he brought Capoeira back to Israel, he was like, you know, I was a beginner. I was just starting Capoeira. I was probably like, I think he mentioned like 2-3 years in Capoeira, and he was just a beginner. You know, he was still a student, but he had the desire. We joke in the conversation that he had the force in him. You know, he was very passionate about teaching and passing that knowledge to everyone around him. So he started teaching, and he was getting judged, and that is a very huge key for us. And it can be both ways, right? It can be either negative. We can take it either negative, or we can take it positively. So the positive way, he took it the positive way, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show myself how I'm going to grow Capoeira here in Israel. Man, over 20 years later, Capoeira is huge in Israel, huge in Israel, which actually he mentions at the very end of the podcast. And listen to the end of the podcast, all the way to the end, where he mentions Capoeira and Judo are very close on competition there. Everybody knows Capoeira as much as they know Judo. So he's giving a hard time to Judo schools because Capoeira is keeping up and is growing. He also mentions about the kids class, how important it is for us to have kids class, which is something that I'm going to pay attention to that myself. Listen to this podcast. This podcast is so good for all the Capoeira community, because it's going to give us insights of how to grow our schools, what are the tools that we need, and that motivation, especially this Capoeira course that him and Mr. Cueca and all his team are teaching and putting together to get more professional as capoeiristas, instructors. And again, he mentions too that, you know, this course doesn't have to be only for instructors or teachers. It can be to anyone in the community. So eventually, when you want to pass that information, or as a beginner, eventually you are going to get to the instructor level. So it's better for us to educate right now, so we don't have to wait 5, 6, 7, 10 years for us to be instructors and educate ourselves when we get there. Why not get education from now that we get there, and probably teach even before, whenever we feel like, okay? So I'm not going to stop you anymore. Please, if you have any questions, reach out, because I want to hear feedbacks from you. I want to hear what do you think about this episode, or what do you think about the episode before, or what do you want to learn from the podcast, okay? What do you want to see, or what do you want to hear in the podcast? Who do you want to hear in the podcast? Please let me know. Please help me to understand your mind, okay? So if you have any questions, let me know. However, reach out to me to the Capoeira Experience Podcast on Instagram, or the Capoeira Experience Podcast on Facebook, and let me know I'm 100% open to listen to anything that you want to know in the capoeira community. Okay, of course, nothing negative, please. Just information that can help us grow and information that can help us go forward and understand how we can grow our capoeira school on a positive manner. This is to share information. We already got social media, so if we want to keep other information, I'm not going to get repetitive and the same things that you see on social media. So this is pretty much to share and grow our capoeira knowledge and our capoeira information. And again, that capoeira knowledge can come from the beginner or a very, very, very old master. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions. Okay. I'm not gonna stop you anymore. So please listen to Mestre Edan. I keep saying Mr. Edan. Mr. Edan. Mr. Edan. Okay. Go there, check it out. Please say yes to positivity. Okay. Peace out, guys. Let's go rock it. Peace. What's up, Capoeira Nation? Welcome back to the Capoeira Experience podcast. Thank you so much for being back in the Capoeira Experience and the podcast. I'm your host, Instructor Kashishi, and today I have a special guest, and I've been mentioning to you that I want to learn from the entire capoeira community. Even you can be a very beginning, or you can be a mestre, or you can have 2 days doing capoeira. You still have a capoeira experience. That's why I want to bring everybody here to the podcast. So today, I've been admiring him for a very long time because I see the growth, the exponential growth, and the hard work behind the scenes. And especially myself as an instructor, you see how much work you have to put behind the scenes before you step into the class. So I admire everybody that put all this hard work and putting all the information, and especially educating the capoeira community to grow and to be better. Doesn't matter the school, and we actually were talking about this for a couple minutes. But let me not make this introduction too long. Please let me introduce to Mestre Dan. How are you doing, Mestre?
Great. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the podcast and sharing your experience and your knowledge in the capoeira community. I know it's a lot of knowledge there.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And we can be here for all day talking about capoeira, and then always happen to friends that we start talking for 2 minutes and we end up talking for 5 hours. Yeah. And then so what would be your social media so people can follow you and can find you on social media, and anyone listening to this?
Well, I've my students taking care of my social media. I'm not a person of the social media, They use the name Academia do Mestre Edan.
Okay.
And my students, take care of it and post some stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, Academia do Mestre Edan.
And that will be on Instagram, right?
That's it.
Yeah. And then
Instagram.
Okay. And do you have a website where people can go there and find some of your information?
Not as much. No. So no.
Okay.
There, I have also Facebook, Mestre Edan, but you know what? I don't have anything.
Okay.
My students have it. I should call my students to give answer for this one.
We'll have them on the podcast too.
I follow them, I follow Mestre Edan as my followers,
Well, that's good. That's a good thing. You follow yourself.
Because they take care of all things, and I really don't. I just don't.
No worries. No worries.
Don't think about it.
Awesome. No worries. Then, and what would be a short story from the beginnings of your capoeira, so people can also get to know you a little bit your background?
I was a student of Mestre Daniel. Mestre Daniel is, let's say, I'm 50 years old. He's like almost 70 years old. The past 10 years is very, very sick, unfortunately Alzheimer, which is very bad.
Okay.
And he was the first one to bring capoeira to Israel, and I was one of his first students.
Wow, that's awesome.
And after 3 years, I went to Brazil and trained with Mestre and many different masters in Bahia, Capoeira Angola, a lot of Capoeira Angola and stuff. Came back to Israel and started teaching. It was in 94. When I was in 94 in Brazil, I think I've been in many different academies. I didn't see even one foreigner. I was like, every academy I've been, I was the only foreigner.
Wow.
Few years later, I came back to Brazil. There was quite a lot of foreigners, but yeah, that's how it was. And 94, I started teaching in Israel capoeira.
Nice. And you pretty much were the second person that brought capoeira to Israel, or
yeah, more or less. Let's say the significant people. I was one of the significant people that put it, made it what it is.
Nice. And how was the I know that I was talking to Mestre Cueca last time, and he was mentioning that it was the beginning of the settlement of capoeira in Israel was a little bit tough. How was that process?
Well, let's say for myself first, many people thought I shouldn't teach. Like many people said, many capoeira masters said, "Oh, this guy in Israel shouldn't teach capoeira." Well, when I started teaching capoeira, I think I was a yellow belt, 3 years.
Okay.
3 years capoeira, I was started teaching. And actually, when I started teaching, no one cared. But when I had like 100 students, people started to say, "Well, this guy in Israel, who let him teach?" And actually, no one. I just wanted to teach. I had some knowledge and I wanted to share it.
Yeah.
And it took many years till I was accepted in the capoeira community.
Okay.
And I had to prove myself. Sometimes because you're not Brazilian, you have to prove yourself, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You have to prove yourself in the music, in the Portuguese, in the movement, in everything. So I worked hard, and sometimes because people don't believe in you, and then you have to prove yourself. And what happens is the opposite that what they wanted. They wanted me to stop teaching, and I was like, "I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do better than you guys." I was really into it. I wanted to learn it all. The music aspect, and the fighting in the Angola. I was then traditional capoeira is Angola. Then I want to learn the traditional one. I want to learn everything.
Nice.
So I was bringing on many capoeira Angola masters to Israel to learn, and every year going for a few months training. And so the beginning wasn't easy, and today when I think about it, people ask me, I try to encourage people to start teaching. If you feel like you want to teach, and then don't wait for people to tell you, "Oh, you're allowed to teach," or something like this. If you feel like it, then it burns inside of you, and you feel that you want to share your knowledge. Then even if it's a few friends, that's how I started. Friends, and you have this energy, and if the energy is strong, if the force is strong,
the force within you.
Then it's like a magnet.
100%. Yeah.
If the capoeira is, because sometimes you see someone that is really good in capoeira, but the force is not so strong there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see someone that is quite a beginner in capoeira, but the force is so strong, and everyone that he meets is talking about capoeira, and he wants to show that's the time you should teach capoeira.
Yeah, because you're attracting the people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And actually, I was learning my capoeira while I was teaching my capoeira. let's say today I'm learning also, yeah, okay.
100%.
You all,
Yes.
you all the
Yeah.
time, when you stop learning, then you get born, you're
Yeah.
born.
Yeah.
And so you always, there's, like Mr. Suna told me sometime, don't wait this guy to die to give him a master degree. Okay, so don't wait this guy gets tired till he start teaching,
Yeah.
same idea. Same idea. If it burns in you, then start doing it. Start teaching. Maybe start teaching in your academy, in master's academy, or in your fundo do quintal, like something like in the garage training,
Yeah. Yeah.
But start teaching, and then you check out what if the force is with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that attracts people, and those people attract more people, and is that energy is very, very contagious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And people see it too. People see it, the passion behind the words and the action behind the passion, because
Yeah.
they get contagious with that.
And then the teachers, my students, if I started yellow belt teaching, then some of my students started teaching even green and yellow, like second years of capoeira,
Nice. Okay.
and they started teaching because the demand for capoeira was so strong.
That's awesome.
People wanted to learn because the magnet was so strong. We were like a small community, but we were training every day for a few hours, and we were doing like every weekend street rodas.
That's awesome.
And the magnet was strong. People wanted to join us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe you were training with me 2 years, but every day, few hours, and then after
That's a lot of
years,
capoeira in 2 years.
yeah, and they were quite talented people. It wasn't like a 4 years a kid that trained us with you. No, it was like people that like in their just after the army here in Israel, like maybe 20, 21 years old with a good background in sport, and they were training and had some knowledge in teaching already. And then we used to do the instructor course. We started doing the instructor course, and we sent them to teaching, and people who said, "You're crazy, you give this guy to teach," and it works,
Yeah.
These guys that were teaching from green and yellow belt, like third or second belt, till today they are capoeira masters. Today they
Wow.
still teach, and they are capoeira masters, and they'll have a huge community.
That's so cool.
Huge community.
That's so cool. Yeah. And that's also helps to grow the entire community, because you don't have to wait 7 years for a person to teach a class, and then now that person is when it starts, and then another 7 years for another person to start, and then that's actually good. That's actually good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the story behind the instructor course is I was doing the instructor course actually when I was a soldier. I was a soldier, so I was a martial artist when I was a kid, and then when I was a soldier, I had the opportunity to do a Krav Maga instructor course in the army.
Okay, cool.
To teach Krav Maga in the army, and then I met this guy that he was the head of Krav Maga in the army. And when I came back from Brazil, I met him, and he was fascinated with the capoeira, and he told me, "Dan, let me show you how you're going to do it correctly. Pass your capoeira to other people." So he was my teacher in the army, and then we put together all my best students, and we did the first instructor course, and he was like commanding the instructor course and teaching me at the same time how to pass it.
Yeah.
Since the instructor course is like very different, we improved it a lot. But he was like he was a Krav Maga guy. He didn't know capoeira. He was much older than me.
Yeah.
But he was so fascinated. He was all the time saying, "You're lucky that I'm too old for capoeira, because if I was younger, you wouldn't have any work to do, because I was the capoeira master here." So he was in love with capoeira, and he like adopted me and teaching me how to build a group.
Yeah.
And
how
he
to
was
teach
saying
pretty much, right?
and he was an army guy, yeah. And he was saying me, if you want to build an army, you start from a, a school for officers.
Huh.
That's how you build an army. When you want to build an army, you don't start with training the soldiers. You start with train a course for officers. The officers gonna train the soldiers, you know.
Ha, very
And
smart. Yeah.
so let's say I started teaching in 94, 99. I got together with this guy, Eli Avigzar, his name, very famous in the community of Karmaga. And 99, we did the first instructor course, and since then we do every year.
That's
He
so
passed
cool.
away in 2005, cancer. Unfortunately, cancer. He was a great martial artist and a very close friend for me. But but he inherited for me this knowledge, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And it's funny that you don't, when we step out of the box and we see from the outside of capoeira, like you don't really need to have capoeira knowledge to learn how to pass the capoeira knowledge. Because it's, as long as you know how to teach and how to pass it and how to translate it, I think that's the key for any instructor, pretty much. So yeah, how we're talking about of how the teaching capoeira or teaching in general doesn't really need a capoeira degree, and the matter of like capoeira, right? That which will be the pretty much the whole subject of the podcast, and is how to teach and how pass this information.
Yeah.
How do you find any other challenge of like, I remember I heard many stories of the when capoeira, when you guys were building capoeira in Israel, the government put kind of like restriction on you guys, right?
Yeah, like the law in Israel says that you cannot teach martial art or any sport without this instructor course. That's part of the reason we started doing it. That's the law.
Okay.
Okay, and it's still today. Like the law says this, no one's gonna give you insurance for your teaching or let you teach without you have a diploma in teaching. You do the instructor course. It's at the instructor course. There's a certain it's not something that that I invited. It's like a padrón. It's like
Yeah.
something that's the government give you that and that hours, and this is the material, and you have to learn anatomy and physiology and psychology and the science of sports, and then you start only the capoeira, only then.
Yeah.
So it's something that in Israel it's very organized.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's quite a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Quite like now I'm in the middle of instructor course. They did already 2 weeks. They sleep there in the Sport Industry Institute of Israel called Wingate,
Okay.
and they sleep there and train from 8 in the morning till 8 at night.
Wow.
Yeah, and usually it's for 5 weeks. And in the morning they do the capoeira part, which includes a lot of methodology.
Okay.
Yeah, and kids classes and adult classes and that kind of class, blah blah blah. And afternoon they do like all the science, anatomy
Okay.
and stuff like this. So it's for 5 weeks. Now with the
Wow.
corona things, so the science they do on Zoom before, and they have only 3 intensive weeks with me. That's why I'm like working really hard now.
Yeah, that's awesome though, because
So,
he molds the instructors and how to pass the information, and that's amazing.
yeah.
And it's also cool how like from one little struggle can also actually build something so important, especially teach. I feel like we need to learn how to teach.
Yeah, it's something. Um, people teach with. You can be a natural. Okay, you can be
Yeah.
natural and a good teacher, and you also can just improve with your experience. But what we try to do with the instructor course is when you start teaching, you don't burn things. You do it correctly from the beginning. You don't do mistakes, because mistakes when you teach sports and martial arts can be very damaging for physically and also mentally. We say that martial arts, it's like when you take a guy and you put him in stress,
Yeah.
Physically and mentally, like the worst stress is going to be in his life probably in
Yeah.
martial arts. Okay, a doctor, before he can open his clinic, usually here in Israel he learns for 12 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
then he can open his clinic. Yeah, at least 12 years. And a martial arts teacher, usually all over the world, what he needs, nothing. You can open whenever you want.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
say, no, you have at least to do this 300 hours of learning, safety stuff and methodical
Yeah.
stuff. And the first rule in instructor course that you learn is, first, do not harm, which is the first rule you learn also when you learn medicine. First, do not harm.
Yeah.
Give the treatment, whatever treatment that you give. First, do not do it worse, makes it worse. So the instructor course, also from the experience, when I think of myself, I did many mistakes when I was a young teacher.
For sure. Yeah.
I tried to save all these mistakes from the newcomers, especially when you're going to teach kids. Okay,
100%.
people, you teach kids, it's very fragile. You should be really careful, and you should always question yourself. I teach the guys, first, question yourself, think, don't and try to see if you do. The student should come healthy to class, healthy, and every class go home healthier,
Yeah.
than he came. And same thing is mentally. You want to give him the right challenge that's gonna make him stronger, and more confidence in himself. So that's the idea.
Yeah. 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 Because that way is tricky, especially teaching kids. And the kids are going to be pretty much the base of the school, right? Because they're gonna grow up, and then hopefully they stay longer in capoeira
Exactly.
too.
When I was started teaching capoeira, the capoeira, as I said, we were a magnet. We were a really strong community, small community, but really strong. And all the cool guys were training, all the athletes and all the dancers, and then, like in 2000, it went down a little bit, and I had to invent myself again.
Oh,
Like, I used to teach only adults,
yeah.
and then there was like a kind of fall. And then I realized that I have to invent myself again, and I had to learn from the beginning and research a lot how to teach kids.
Yeah.
And then I realized you teach kids, and you need patience, and you need the
100%.
system. But you take these kids 4, 5, 6 years old, and they're gonna be with you, for 20 years, and they're gonna become very, very high level.
Yeah.
And I created this system that worked.
Yeah.
Today we see the fruits. It took some time, but today we see kids that grew up on this system. Today they are great capoeiristas and the teachers already, and
That's
they
awesome.
pass the same system. So the system actually is very complex. It's mentally, physically, it's not something that I can tell you like in 2 minutes what's the system, but I will
Yeah.
tell you that first you start with understanding group of ages.
Okay.
like, you know, in schools, I see schools in Europe. I don't know how it is in Europe, in the States, but there's many schools of like every 3 years, like they go together.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
3 years they jump, like they go together, and so we learn group of ages, and every group of age they need different stuff, different
100%.
approach. You talk with them differently.
Yes.
Physically, they look different. They need different things, you know, and that was my big research. And then also from athletic perspective, how you train, because there's a thing we call window of opportunities,
Okay.
sensitive and critical phase in grow up, that certain kind of physical aspect, fitness component develops better. And I did a huge research about it. So it's mentally and physically, and we put it together, and every age have a little bit different class. And we created quite a system, you know.
Yeah.
And it works, you know, because when I start this course, I give it not only for capoeira instructors, but for all martial artists in Israel. When they come to do the instructor course, they have to do like 15 to 20 hours with me about kids classes.
Okay.
This is my specialty. And then some guys from the beginning said, "Oh, I don't care much about this course because I'm not going to teach kids." And then I asked him, "Why you're not going to teach kids?" Because there's a lot of discipline issues, and then I tell them the first thing about it is to know what they need. Okay.
Yeah.
If you understand what the kid's needs are, and you fit it with your, it's what you're going to give him, you know, and then you see that there's most of the discipline problems, they're not going to be there. But if you give him something that he cannot accept, something that he doesn't care about, that is not really mentally and physically ready to get, then starts all the problems, you know.
Yeah.
So when you have a system, and then it makes it so easy. And then guys come after the course, come to me, and after a few years, they said, "Wow, I started teaching kids, and it's easier than giving classes for adults." Because I know what they need, and I talk to them with the kids in a level that they understand, and it all becomes so easy.
Yeah,
we call it expectations, you know. The expectations that you should be leveled with the expectations that you're going to ask from the kids. If the expectations are different from what they're able, then there's a conflict, and there you're going to have a problem. They're not going to enjoy your class. Then you're gonna have some issue with discipline, you know. But if the kids love the class, and the level of challenge is the right level that they want, you know, to go for it, then it's great. Then they with you, they take part, you know. And so the expectations is the key for all this course, you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for getting this far. Remember, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook or YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is going to help us and help me to get bigger numbers and bigger subscribers so we can give more information, okay? Please, if you're listening, I know you're listening, I know you're watching, please give me a subscribe, give me a like, okay? I know you're watching right here or listening. All right, have an amazing day. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening every single episode. especially the episode we just did. All right. Thank you so much. Peace.